60%. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Belichick's Bitches Podcast, the best podcast in the world by some sort of metric, using the best source, the only source. Do trust me. I'm your host, Brennan, and along with me, as always, is my co-host, Tyler.
Yes, sir. We're back at it again. This week we had a pretty busy week compared to the other few.
Yeah, everything came in the last couple days again.
Yeah. Uh, well, we were talking, I think, a couple weeks ago about Yannick Ngakoue
Yep.
and his holdout and his big deal, Jacksonville. That's finally over. He got traded to Minnesota for a second round pick, and I think conditional fifth
Yes.
was the other part of the deal.
And I think he
I
actually
mean,
he's actually restructured his contract with Minnesota to actually take less money.
that's good to hear. See, I think that's a good move for Minnesota. You replace Everson Griffin
With Yannick
to depart
Ngakoue and pair him with
Yannick
Daniel Hunter.
Hunter. The only issue I really have with Yannick Ngakoue, and it's not even his personal thing, again, the consistency.
Yeah.
But for only a second round pick, you're getting a pretty solid edge rusher who has still a pretty high ceiling. And yeah, I think Minnesota definitely won that trade,
Yeah.
considering, I mean,
Minnesota definitely.
Jacksonville always loses, so
It's just Jacksonville.
for Jacksonville, and we'll be talking more about Jacksonville
Poor Gardner.
but later. And they also cut Fournette. More on the topic of the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, the out of all the things, that was the one that shocked me the most.
I kind
Because
of
Fournette,
I kind of saw it coming, but yes, it did surprise me.
I was expecting him to get traded. If we're being honest, I was fully expecting the Bears to send.
I think they were trying to
Jags.
trade him, but no one wanted him because they knew the Jaguars would probably cut him.
Yeah, but like, I figured they would at least get like a 6th-round pick for him, at least from the Bears, which was like my number one. And I think that he's the number. That's the number one team needs Fournette right now.
Probably,
But
yeah. I mean, they
he
have
was
David
a
Montgomery though. David Montgomery and
he
Tariq
was a
Cohen.
really good. Do you know how many yards he had last year?
No, I actually don't know.
1,500 all-purpose yards.
Wow, that's more than I thought he
1,100
did.
on the ground. He had another like 400 or 500 in the air. He had 3 touchdowns though.
I
But
think I
it's
owned him.
Jacksonville. How many goal line opportunities?
I
he
had him
get,
in fantasy last year, or the year before, and it sure didn't feel like it.
Yeah, he was really good last season, but he just got overshadowed by Jacksonville being terrible, and he also got overshadowed by Minshew.
Yeah, and DJ
But
Shark.
man, and I don't. I feel like wherever he's going to go, he's going to improve. He's not going to be in Jacksonville anymore. I think you'll see his numbers kind of go up a little bit, and I think him in Chicago would be like the perfect mesh. Chicago really needs that 1-2 back Cohen, especially with David Montgomery having that big injury.
You know where else I could see? I think there might be a spot for him in Arizona.
Arizona, I actually did think about Arizona when he was first cut. The only issue with Arizona is Arizona does like to have running backs that are more, how do I say this, quicker. Look at their history of running backs; they're more elusive backs. Fournette's not that. He's very hit the hole and just go. So that's why I say Chicago.
Or
I think
maybe
another team that's like a dark horse.
going into
Dark horse.
going into something else that's involving another running back, we could see maybe Fournette go to the Saints.
That he would fit the Saints team pretty well. Really would. I do think there's a spot on. I mean, he would take Latavius Murray's spot.
Oh yeah.
And that would be a mean backfield. Yeah, the Kamara thing. I'll be honest. You probably know a little more about this Kamara thing. I haven't really been on social media today. All I hear is that he had some
He's like
unexcused absences.
he's held out like the past couple training camps. Yeah, he's held out the
But
past couple practices.
apparently he's back in the building now, from what I've heard, and there's no rush on a trade or an extension.
Well, something that I
No rush
heard,
on it.
I'm not sure how accurate this is, that if you miss like the training camps because of the new BPA, you get fined. So he
Mhm.
could just be going to the building to say he's there, but still not practicing, so he
Yeah.
doesn't get fined.
I mean, I think the Saints are going to end up paying him. I don't see Kamara leaving New Orleans. I just don't think it makes sense. I
It
mean,
doesn't
yeah,
make sense now.
they may they may be able to get a second round pick for him. I don't think they'll get first round. And if it is first round, it's late first round.
Hey, and
Uh,
that'd be a great return on investment because he was a third round pick.
would be. But I just don't see Kamara leaving unless some really changes in his attitude. I think the Saints will end up re-signing him on like a $12 million deal per year,
Honestly, I didn't think
maybe
I
13.
wasn't expecting this from Alvin Kamara. I didn't think he was the holdout type
I don't even really think it's.
because
I mean, you could call it horror.
you don't really hear much about Alvin Kamara in New Orleans, any like drama or anything like that. So was
No.
something I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to come to much. I think it'll just be a something we'll forget about in a week, and someone will bring it up 3 years later. You're like, huh? I, I don't know. I just don't see it as a big issue. We're really going away with it on social media. It's like they're making
Yeah,
fun of Taysom Hill about it. Every time anything happens with the Saints, I mean, it could be about their backup cornerback. Taysom Hill starts trending immediately
yeah,
with it. If you ever see the Saints trending, it's always a Taysom Hill thing right under it.
yeah, pretty much.
I don't think it's a big. Staying in the South, Jamar Chase
Yeah,
opted out of the 2020 college football season.
wide receiver for
Him
the
and I think
LSU Tigers.
another one of his another teammate, defensive lineman. I can't think of his name. Save my life right now. Another, I think the D tackle, one of the D tackles, is also opting out, and apparently Ed Ogeron said it. This is probably going to happen a little bit more
Oh yeah,
with
probably.
LSU. That's
Oh
not really surprising. Some kids just don't want to risk playing,
yeah,
and you
especially if
can't
there's a
blame them.
bona fide first round pick like Jamar Chase
Yeah, I
is.
mean,
He's bona fide the first wide receiver off the board, unless he gets hurt or he just absolutely bombs in like the combine or like
and that's what
interviews or
I'm saying.
visits or anything like that. But he's bona fide wide receiver one in this class by far.
And that's what I think. I mean, if you think it's not worth the risk to play, don't play. You know what I mean? Give someone else that shot. So if these players, people are mad about these players opting out, and you're bringing it back up, these people having at the end of the day, if they don't want to play, they
Don't let.
got to,
Yeah, they don't have to.
and
If they want to
that's a
play, let
good
them
thing.
play.
There's another kid waiting to get his chance, and that's exactly what's going to happen. I don't. I think this hurts LSU a little bit,
Oh yeah,
contention wise. But I don't think LSU was going to repeat anyway,
no.
especially since now they have to run the SEC gauntlet with the season. I don't think LSU is going to be the elite offense or defense you saw last season because they're going to be playing
Hey,
all of the SEC teams. And that's
are
going to
you
be
saying you're
gross.
doubting the Tigers' new quarterback, the Joe
Yes,
Burrow's backup last year?
yes,
Miles Brennan. You're doubting Miles Brennan?
yes, I am. I doubt anyone named Brennan.
Wow. Of course, his is spelled with an A, so the improper way to spell it, but nonetheless.
Well, Cleveland,
Cle-
Cleveland, they took advantage of Miami.
Yeah. Well, it was
Oh
Miami's
my
fault.
God.
So when we talk about Miami last week with Curtis Weaver, how they waived him so they could possibly put him on IR. Well, Cleveland took advantage of that. Cleveland just wrote, you're gonna put a fifth round edge rusher who could have been honestly taken higher from Boise
Yeah,
State.
projected. Some people had him projected as high as a late second, early
Yeah.
third.
And
Pick
so Cleveland goes, I'll take that. It just signs him.
free.
And all Cleveland has to do, they can put him on IR. They just have to wait to keep till he's on the 53, and then they can put him on IR. That's all Miami had to do was wait, and they were just too impatient. They wanted to try something a little bit sneaky, and they just got completely clowned on for it, and that was amazing.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful to see that. You're starting to see this as like almost a pattern. Every like year now, there's something that happens with a middle round pick. Just shouldn't. Like last year, it was with Jackai Polite getting cut. He was
Yeah.
a third-round pick. It's just starting to become a theme. Just as much of a theme as New England missing on second-round picks. It's just becoming an every-year occurrence. Anyway, sorry, True Colors came out there for a second.
Hey, Kyle Duggar's going to change it
So
for you. Don't worry.
I hope. I really hope. Derwin James, man.
Yeah, poor Derwin.
I think on both of our lists, he was on our number 2 safety.
Yeah, he was number 2 with Jamal Adams at 1.
6 to 8 months with a knee. That's probably end of the season.
I think it was a meniscus tear, if I want to say.
Yeah, it was. He had surgery on that yesterday. It's just injuries they're part of the game, and so you should never be shocked by injuries,
especially when it happens to the Chargers. That happens quite frequently to the Chargers.
My God, that I saw a tweet. It's like, I don't care whatever statistics, graphs you show at me. The Chargers, Dolphins, and the Washington football team make up like 98% of injuries. It's just how it is every year.
Honestly,
they're just always injured.
If those teams are always injured, you really need to look at like their strength and conditioning coaches and their medical staff. Honestly.
Yeah, it's just it sucks. And thankfully this year with no preseason games and limited training camp, you haven't seen as many severe injuries.
Yeah.
Up to this point, you've only seen I think like 4. Derwin, Tyrell Williams, which we'll talk about later. We'll talk about that little sneak peek. It sucks, but at the same time, I think Derwin will be able to bounce back from it.
Oh yeah.
But 2 knee injuries in 2 years, it's a little worrying. I don't know. I just hope it doesn't become a theme for Derwin. My thing is 2 injuries, you're not injury prone, you're just a little unlucky. Once you start getting into that 3 injuries,
especially if it's the
3
same,
and 4 years,
it's in the same general area.
Yeah, that's when I start kind of saying you might be a little injury prone. And so if Derwin gets another knee injury next season, I think that's kind of a big red flag that Chargers should move on. I hope I'm wrong on that, but it's not looking good.
I don't know how he felt towards like the 17th pick in that draft.
Mainly because people didn't know what to do with him. They didn't know if he was a corner. And that was kind of when he came into the draft, no one really knew what to want. And he was such an unknown. But now over those last few seasons, the NFL has just changed drastically.
Yeah.
How defense is played. And now I guarantee you
he's a true
same player. He is. And those are so valuable now. I mean, 2 years.
It's why we saw Isaiah Simmons go 7.
You wouldn't have seen Justin Coleman getting top 10 cornerback money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't have seen that 3 years ago because it's a nickelback. They used to play 20% of the snaps. A nickelback now is a starter. And there's no other way around it. You have to start nickelback because you're in your alternate defense 65% of the time.
Nickels
at least, and some of that time you have 4. I think you almost need 4 now. Almost need 4 corners because dime is also becoming more common with how many 4 receiver looks you're looking at. I mean, look at the Chiefs. They have 4 wide receivers that play a lot. And when you go in against the Chiefs, you can't just have 3 corners and safety. You can't do it. You're just going to get burned. Ask every team that played the Chiefs last year. One of those corners is going to get burned.
I don't mean to toot our own horn here, but I think the 2015 Broncos defense kind of started that thing where you need 3 corners in order to succeed with.
Roby, Talib, and
Harris.
Yeah. This one, Roby was actually pretty decent.
when he wasn't a outside corner,
yeah. Okay, well, we're rambling a little too much. So this week, like we said last week, we're doing our season predictions. We're going to start off with the AFC this week. And, boy, these should be fun. Kind of a quick breakdown how we're going to do it. We're going to just kind of try to go through this pretty quickly so it's not an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like it could be. We're going to try to keep this a little bit paced. We're just going to kind of go over what the record is, and we're going to kind of go over a key week, a key win, key loss.
Yeah.
Whatever. Maybe key tie. I don't know what Brendan's weird. He might have a tie in there.
No, I don't.
And just kind of move on from there.
And we both kind of did this.
AFC, we'll do the.
We both kind of did this a little differently. I just want to preface this because I think you what you projected their overall record to be before you actually went into like the schedule and stuff like that. Am I right on that?
Kind of,
Because
yeah.
I
I
did
kind of went into it.
I just looked at the schedule
Started just
straight up and did game by game.
see. I didn't do that. Yeah, yeah. I figured what I had in their mind, and then I kind of molded it. So it's a little different, but yeah, it's a little sloppy near the end. Especially next week, you'll see where it gets a little sloppy. But yeah, we did a little different. I think it'll be interesting. So we're gonna start with the AFC North. We're gonna go bottom to top, 4-1, with this. So who do you have finishing fourth? I feel like our answers are gonna be the same here.
In the AFC
In the
North,
AFC North,
the Cincinnati Bengals at 6-10.
6-10. Wow. Okay. I had them going 3-13. Uh, not big on the schedule mainly because they got to play the
Yeah,
AFC North for
yeah.
6 games,
That's
and I think I
six.
had them losing every single
Yeah,
game
so did
in
I.
the AFC North.
So did I.
And their outside schedule is also pretty tough. If I remember correctly. Um, I think the week that's going to matter the most for the Bengals is going to be Week 11. They play Washington again, and that's going to be a little a little tough on Washington because I think they're going to lose, and that's going to be kind of a tank game. The
Hmm.
two franchises that are still trying to lose. I think they lose that, and they secure a top 5 pick, top 3 pick. That loss. So who do you have as like your key week for the Bengals?
My key week, I say, was week 12, a loss to the Giants at home. Giants coming off a bye week. They have maybe an opportunity to get some more wins afterwards with the Dolphins, and then they play the Washington football team before that week. And if they lose, then they lose a lot of momentum headed into a really tough stretch of their schedule where they right after they play the Dolphins, right after the Giants, they play Cowboys, Steelers, Texans, Ravens, and Browns
Ooh,
to end off the season.
that's
So if they
tough.
don't have momentum going into that game against the Dolphins, if they lose that game to the Giants, I don't see them winning any single one of those games.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. And that's the thing about the Bengals again is they're kind of stuck in a really good division this year. So yeah, I have a feeling that's going to be pretty rough. Next team, I've in finishing third. I have the Browns at 7-9. I am still not high on the Browns.
Yeah,
It's been 3 years since the Browns, or 2 years since the Browns were supposed to be good. Last year, they were really hyped up. I mean, whew, they were beyond insane hyped. I don't see it this year. I think they're still building. I'm not high on Baker yet. I think I need to see another year of Baker before I say, yeah, this is definitely a playoff team. 7-9 is what I have for them. And what do you have them going?
I have them going 8-8 actually.
Okay, so we're pretty close on that.
Yeah, I don't have them as a playoff team. I think they just missed the cut. Again, they have to play a pretty stacked AFC North. I think I had them going like only probably winning 2 games, maybe 3. But yeah, they win 2 against the Bengals, maybe 1 against the Steelers. That's pretty much all I see in division wise. I think they just missed out on the playoffs. It's not their year, especially maybe if Big Ben retires after this year, next year will be their year for playoffs. But this year, no.
Yeah, and I think what's going to really set Browns kind of a year of annoyance is going to be in Week 5. They play the Colts at home, and I think the Colts just put them away. I think their season's going to be done pretty early. I think I have them going like 1-3 or 1-4 to start the season, and they bounce back. But I just don't see it out of the Browns this year. And when you play the AFC North Gauntlet, that can be a pretty tough road for any team. And I think it's pretty tough, even on the Steelers, who I have finishing second in the division. I've seen some people saying that they're like a dark horse to win the AFC North. I don't see it this year. I think Pittsburgh finishes second, and I have them going 10-6.
Yeah, I have the Steelers as well going 10-6 with a key win. I had them going. Sorry, excuse me. It's this feeling when you have like a burp coming on, but it just kind of like sits there. Yeah, I have a key win against the Ravens week 12 at home. I think they
Mm-hmm.
win that game. they get momentum. It's all a momentum thing, especially at the back end of your schedule, because they have Washington the next week, but then they have the Bills. Then they play division rival with Bengals, and and division rivalry games are always tough. Then they play the Colts and then the Browns again. So
I actually
they
have.
make or break the playoffs off that Ravens game, in my opinion.
I think their statement games could be Week 9. Play the Cowboys in Dallas, and I think that's the game where Pittsburgh really puts themselves in playoff contention. I think they're going to go in there into Dallas and just beat them. Now, of course, who's going to win the AFC North? Baltimore. It's just a matter of how many wins they're going to get. I have them winning 13 games, actually, this year. If they didn't have the draft they had, they probably wouldn't be in that boat. You combine the draft they had with the roster coming back and Lamar Jackson improving, I think they're 13 wins. If someone had said 14, I wouldn't argue with them. I really think they're that good.
Yeah.
So
just looking at
it just matters what they're going to do in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, just looking at their schedule, it was honestly kind of hard for me to not want to project 16-0, but I ended up going. I ended up going with 14-2, with the number 1 seed. I think their key win is against the Steelers in Week 7, right before they head into their bye week. They get that win. They have pretty good momentum behind them. I think they win the first 7 weeks of their schedule, 6 weeks of their schedule. If they beat the Steelers, they go into a bye week. Then they're hot at the right time, and they probably finish off their schedule pretty well with only 2 losses. Which will probably be against the Titans and maybe the Steelers in 12 or the Browns in 14.
Yeah. I actually have their key win in Week 12 versus the Steelers. I think they sweep the Steelers. I really do. I think the difference between Baltimore and Steelers, only 3 wins on the wing, but I think those 3 wins are pretty huge.
Yeah.
And I think Baltimore, they might be my Super Bowl pick for the AFC.
Yeah.
Or just might. I haven't actually thought about it. They're
the Ravens can definitely. I can definitely see the Ravens sweeping the Steelers. I just think that's their biggest competition in their division, and that's a pretty big rivalry right there between the Ravens and the Steelers.
It's always hard to sweep.
They're always
Sweeping
2 teams
really
that just go 100% at each other at all times.
And it's really hard to sweep a team like the Steelers. I think that's what makes them. That's what's going to make them a little bit better. I've been wrong before, trust me. So AFC South. Now, in my opinion, this is just mine. I think it's the most overrated division in the league.
Yeah, I think it's probably
we're talking about all weakest. No, I can't say that. I think it's the most overrated because I think the weakest one we'll also be talking about today. Trust me. Especially with Jacksonville, we made these. At least I did. I made mine way before the Leonard Fournette thing. I almost want to take give Jacksonville another 1 or 2 L's because of that move.
I don't think I could because, I mean, that put them in, like, record-setting territory if I did that.
Well, I have Jacksonville going at 2-14.
That's exactly what I have them going as well.
I think they are just going to be terrible. And Minshew, I love Minshew as a player. I think Minshew is a very solid quarterback. I think he has a good future in the NFL. Definitely a little raw, but I think he's really good. I just don't think he's going to have the team around him for him to ever get that shot. He doesn't have a running back anymore. He's got Chris Thompson, and bless his heart, Chris Thompson. He's not Leonard Fournette, and you have DJ Shark, he was a Pro Bowler last year. That's great.
And you got rookie second-round pick Laviska Shenault.
Shenault, but I mean, how much is Shenault really going to give you in his rookie year? Especially in a scheme that doesn't really highlight wide receivers that well.
Yeah, and
our offense has been Fournette.
And by coaching staff that I don't trust, they'll probably use Shenault correctly because he is a mismatch weapon. So I think they'll probably just use him as a traditional wide receiver, not give him any special packages, which will probably hurt his production.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Jacksonville, as I think they imploded their roster when they didn't need to.
Yes.
And I think their drafting of constant defensive players has made this influx where we're going to hit on one, but we're going to miss on three. I mean, Tavon Bryan. They
Taven.
skipped on Tavon Bryan or Taven Tavon. They picked him over Lamar.
Yep.
Now every team passed on Lamar because he was the 32nd pick in the first round, and I get that. I was screaming at my TV, telling New England to pick him. And when we traded up to number 31 to draft Isaiah Wynn, I was upset, very upset.
You just been very upset with the Patriots drafts.
And what's sad is I'm usually correct. Anyway, moving on from the Patriots because we'll be talking about Patriots pain later. But anyway, yeah, Jaguars. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I really don't. Houston, I have finishing in third
Wait,
in the
do you have a
AFC
key
East.
loss
I
for
think
him?
they take a. Oh, key loss for Jaguars.
Or like
Week
you
3
win?
versus Miami.
My key.
Oh, for very good.
Oh, my key loss is week 8 versus the Chargers. Right after the bye. That's gonna be a demoralizing loss. They just get right off their bye week and probably get spanked by the Chargers, even with the without Derwin James and with either Tyrod Taylor or Justin Herbert a quarterback. I still think they probably get spanked. I think their only
Herbert
wins
coming
come
off
from
the
either
bus.
the only wins, in my opinion, either come from the Dolphins, the Bengals, or the Bears. That's their ceiling for me. Is probably 3-13, maybe 4-12.
And with how bad Jacksonville is, I really don't think it's a stretch to say they win one game this year.
Yeah,
I really don't.
it's me being optimistic, giving them 2-14.
It was hard to give them wins.
Yeah, it really was.
Third place, I think this team, like I said, Houston, I think takes a huge step back. They lose out on Hopkins, and having a wide receiver one is such a luxury that teams undervalue. I mean, you look at all of the best teams in the league; most of them have receiver ones.
Yes.
Houston doesn't have that anymore. Hopkins was a guy that was able to take a young Deshaun Watson and bring him out quicker, bring him out, better. Do I doubt Watson? No. I think Watson's a great quarterback. Do I think he can do it alone? No.
No.
I don't trust David Johnson. I don't trust injury-prone David Johnson. I'm sorry. I don't trust Brandon Cooks. I don't trust Kenny Stills to be a consistent. I just don't. I think the offense is filled with a bunch of number 2 wide receivers, and that's not a recipe for success in the NFL. It's not.
And a running back who's been.
And I think the defense and JJ can only do so much for that front seven.
Yeah.
And I think this is the year they really take a huge step back, 7-9. And I think the loss that's really going to set up a really bad end of the season is Week 14 versus Chicago. I think they go into Chicago and that's when they lose it.
Dude,
I think they'll be about maybe 6-6.
We are so on par with the Texans.
Oh, really?
I gave them 6-10. Key loss to the Bears Week 14, and they lose out the rest of the schedule.
That's exactly what I had. Jeez. Yeah, I just feel bad for Houston because I feel like Watson deserves better than.
Oh yeah, he definitely does. And there's talks that he's probably going to get extended soon.
Poor guy.
I wouldn't.
I just think he has a.
I
Stafford
admire
outlook.
him if he does for his loyalty, but come on, man, you got to get out of there for your own good.
For yourself, man.
Yeah.
Do it for yourself.
I'm sure Texans fans probably wouldn't even be mad at him for doing so with how bad Bill O'Brien and the management of the Houston Texans has been just decimating this team.
I don't understand it. Why they keep doing that to themselves, and why Bill O'Brien. I'm sorry, I hate to say something like this, but why Bill O'Brien still has a job as an NFL head coach is beyond me.
Yeah.
I know that's mean, but I seriously don't get it. Ooh, okay. So, second place in the AFC South, I have the Colts going 8-8. I think the Colts have an interesting roster. I think the Colts have a lot of young talent. if Philip Rivers. Philip Rivers wasn't good last season.
No.
He was very below average. Yeah, he looked worse than Brady at times. Brady was having a pretty bad season. Worse than Brady. And I think he's going to play really awful in
Rivers kind of had a
Minneapolis.
2015 Peyton Manning-esque kind of season, especially with the turnovers.
I just don't trust Philip Rivers leading a team like that. And I think as good as the defense is, I think as good as the offensive line is, I think it's going to be a year where they're going to have to be transitioning to a new quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
I think Eason gets 6 starts.
I don't think that quarterback's on the roster either.
Eason?
I don't think the quarterback of the future is on the roster.
Really? Yeah. That's a pretty good argument. Eason apparently isn't even getting second string reps.
He's getting third string reps. Chad Kelly is currently getting second string reps. He hasn't outseeded Chad Kelly yet, the guy who got cut from the Broncos after being arrested on Halloween for breaking into someone's house and getting beat over the head unconscious with a vacuum cleaner.
But you're not salty about it.
No, I'm not salty. I thought that was hilarious. I never really liked Chad Kelly, but I would rather have seen him than Case Keenum play.
Hey. Oh, I thought you were sorry. I think the week
Colts
that's going to set...
at 8-8. But I have them as my number 7 seed. They went as my 7th seed. Yeah.
I think their key loss is week 16 versus the Steelers. I think that's what's going to really cause them to really miss the playoffs. And they may beat Jacksonville the week after. If they don't, they really don't deserve it anyway. But I think that's the loss that really kind of puts the nail in the coffin.
Yeah. I did
so
key
that
win.
leaves the... Oh, good.
You keep trying to skip me.
I know, I do. I'm sorry.
I think their key win for me will probably be Week 12 against the Titans at home. If they win that, I think they can win out the rest of the schedule, maybe aside from the Steelers, and that puts them just at 8-8 in the 7th seed for playoffs. They just barely sneak in.
And then they'll probably get decimated round 1. Yeah. I actually didn't save the playoffs, and that kind of annoys me.
You didn't save the seeding?
No, I didn't. I did it on a website, saved it on this, and then I deleted it like an idiot. Titans, I have winning the division. The Cinderellas from last year, 10-6, and then I have them having a huge win in Week 11 versus Baltimore. I think Tennessee kind of wins this division out of process of elimination.
Yeah.
More than anything. Just because they're the best of them out of the 4.
And the best overall
But hey,
roster.
I think you can't underestimate Derrick Henry after what he did this season. It's just how's he going to look in a full season? That's really the question for Derrick Henry and the Titans.
Yeah.
And they're going to ride or die by Derrick Henry. If Henry goes, the team goes. If they don't, he doesn't, I don't think the team goes. And I think you may be looking at a 9-7 team winning the AFC South.
Yeah.
I think that's just how it's going to go for Tennessee. I'm a little worried about Tennessee, I'll be honest. They're probably the shakiest 10-win team I have.
So I got my week wrong on the Colts one. I meant Titans in Week 10. Because for my Titans, they're my 4 seed, 10-6 as well. And their key win is the Colts at Week 12. That's the one I meant. That's what I accidentally said for the Colts. They win that game against the Colts, against a division rival. They win the division with that game, and then they could easily just sweep the rest of the their schedule, probably aside from the Packers. That's probably their only really struggle game.
I think the Titans' key win is going to be in Week 11. I think they're actually going to beat Baltimore.
You just said that.
I think they're going to... Really? I did?
Yeah, you already said that.
I'm saying it again. I'm that convinced that it's going to happen. I think that's going to be one of Baltimore's few losses, is them facing a really hungry Titans team for the division win. In my opinion, if I had to pick the 2 worst divisions in football, as of right now, this is one of them. AFC East.
I think both the East divisions are probably the worst.
That's what I would say. If I had to pick an NFC team, the NFC division that works would be the NFC East. Listen, Patriots have been carrying this division for years,
The reign of
and
terror has come to an end.
it looks like it. Well, let's start from the bottom. We'll get our way to New
Yeah.
England. I think we both have the same fourth place. When I'm
Yeah.
saying
I
I have the Jets, and I think the poor Jets, man.
2-14 for
Jets
me.
are terrible. That is exactly what mine is too. They're terrible.
Yeah.
They have lost all of their talent. And no receiver beside Denzel Mims and a bunch of
If they play the Jaguars,
men.
that'd probably be the only game I give a tie.
That would be a fun game to watch.
The ultimate tank bowl.
I'm not much of a Darnold hater as a lot of people are. I know you really dislike Darnold.
No, I'm okay with Darnold.
I'm not. Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
I really don't like Darnold, but I think it's not going to be his fault that the Jets refuse to put a single soul around him.
Any of his career with the Jets has been his fault.
I mean,
Aside
the
from
poor
AJ
guy
Mono,
just was.
That's his fault.
I can't make a joke this because this is just not appropriate for. I'm gonna move on. 2-14. I think they lose week 1 versus Buffalo, and I think that just sets up a season of just mediocrity, just awful football, and I feel bad.
Honestly,
I feel bad for Donald.
I think their
really
only
do.
2 wins
I think it's
maybe
going to be
against the
a bloodbath.
Dolphins.
Yeah, Dolphins. I think I gave them a win, and
I think those are the only 2
win.
wins I can actually see.
And it's just
maybe a
it's
random
bad
divisional win, but that's pretty much it.
If they beat New England, I swear I will be next level salty.
Irate.
Yeah, I'm looking at their schedule. Maybe the Raiders. If the Raiders are not good,
we'll get to that next division.
He could shock the. No, they couldn't. They could shock the Browns. I don't know. Yeah, no, I think Jets are another. Them and Jacksonville are going to be the picking 1 and 2 in the draft next year. Ooh, Dolphins. 12 is what I have Dolphins going. I don't know about you, but
I have the Dolphins going 7-9.
What? 7 wins for Miami?
Yep.
I don't know about that. I want to hear the reasoning.
I think they've massively upgraded their roster, especially on defense. You really see Brian Flores' imprint on that defense, and I think you're just seeing it all around on the team. The draft was I like the free agency a lot more than the draft. The draft, they got a lot of high potential guys, but not necessarily the highest floors. So we're going to have to see how that works out on offense. But on defense, I think they're really putting something special together there. Fitzmagic probably starts. Maybe Tua starts, but I think Fitzmagic starts for a few games, gets him a few random wins here and there because he's Fitzmagic, and then Tua will start maybe around week 6.
See, I think the reason I have the Dolphins' record is as bad as it is at 4-12 is their schedule is rough. And you look at this; they got to play the Bills twice a year. They do actually the Dolphins do play Jags, so I mean the Jets will play the Jags this year.
Yeah, I think I had their wins against.
So fun to see.
I think I had wins against Jags. Obviously, one against the Patriots because that happens every year. Both of the Jets games, so that's 4. Bengals, so that's 5. And I think I gave them the Raiders 2, which is 6, and I think I gave them one more random one somewhere. I don't remember which one it was.
I don't think they're going to beat the Seahawks, the Niners, the Broncos, the Chargers, the Rams.
No.
I don't see them winning any of those games. I don't see them beating.
I think
Chiefs.
It may have been the Chargers. I don't know. I don't remember.
I just don't see it. Really don't. 4-12. I think Tua does kind of step in around week 7 or week 8. But I don't think it's going to make much. I think they do pick up a win in week 15.
I think they're going to start. Yeah, they're probably going to get. I think they're going to get a few wins just because Tua is a rookie, and rookie quarterbacks tend to have decent starts when they play.
That's true. Now we get to talk about New England. Oh boy, I have them finishing second in the division at 7-9.
I also have them finishing second in the division at 7-9.
Okay. Let you go first because my rant might be a little long.
All right. I have their key
I'll
loss.
let you go first on
their
it.
Key loss is week 8 against the Bills. Way at the Bills. I think that's their first game against the Bills, and I think it'll be probably the true test besides the Week 7 game after the bye week against the 49ers. It'll be their true in-division test to see if they can truly try and carry the crown of the AFC East once again. If they lose to the Bills, I think they're not going to win the. If they lose that game to the Bills, they're not going to win their own division. They're probably end up
So
7-9.
here's how I feel about this New England team. I think we have a high ceiling of 10 wins, 11 wins maybe, depending on how Cam plays. But it's not going to go all as we expected. I don't see this team winning the big games. We got to play. First of all, we have the hardest schedule in the league. I just wanted to point that out.
About time.
We play the Seahawks at home. To go, think about it. In a 2-week span, we go into Seattle, the hardest place to play in, and then in 2 weeks we go into the Chiefs.
Arrowhead.
We have to go into Arrowhead. That's tough to start the season. Then we got to play the Broncos at home.
But
and we
also carrying into this, those two games are very, very early in the season, and part of the reason why playing at Seattle and at Arrowhead is so hard is because of the fan base there and the crowd noise. There could be no fans there week 2 and week 4. Definitely not week 2, but week 4, there's a good chance there's no fans there.
But I think at the same time, the way I see it, Seahawks and Chiefs just outclass our roster.
I agree, but I'm just saying the home field advantage is limited.
We also play the Niners this season. We play Baltimore. We play Arizona. We play the Chargers. We play the Rams, and we play the Bills twice a year. I have us losing a bunch of games. 7-9, it's going to be bad, especially with all the opt-outs. I have us losing Week 12 versus Arizona, which is kind of like our nail in the coffin game. I think that just sets us up to, no matter what we do down the stretch, we're probably not making the playoffs. I just don't see it this season. I don't think the magic's there. Maybe I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. Because having the Bills at 9-7 winning the division really hurt writing down. It really did. But that's why I have winning the division.
Yeah, I have the Bills winning the division as well, but I have them at 10-6.
We were pretty close on the AFC East besides the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Who was your key game for the Bills?
Against the Chargers, Week 12 at home. Right after they're coming off a bye week. They're all rested, ready to go. I think they get an easy beat down on the Chargers because their defense just overwhelms either Tyrod Taylor or rookie Justin Herbert because they're going to be relying mainly on Austin Eckler this season. I think that's pretty obvious. And then I think that sets them up well, giving them a lot of confidence on a beat down of the Chargers to go into San Francisco at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara and actually getting a win there to really set them up for actual playoff contention.
No. Me, I have them beating New England in Week 16. And I think that's kind of the staple win for them. Their signature win. They have to go into New England and win them, and they do. It'll probably be a sloppy game, but I think Josh Allen will get it done for them. And I think the Bills.
Yeah, because that'll be in December. It's gonna be a snow game. Josh Allen has the arm strength to definitely just let it rip through that kind of weather, and he's mobile, so the running game will definitely be still a.
We've never seen New, and I think again, I think New England can be good. Yes, I think New England has all the tools. We have Belichick. I think that means we're always there, but at the same time, I don't know how Newton's going to play, and I don't know how our receivers are going to play with Newton. And at the end of the day, it's going to be one of the harder teams to predict, I think, because I've seen predictions as high as 11 wins. I've seen some people have it at some 5 wins.
I have a question for you.
It's all over the place. What?
So, do you think there's a chance that you see Jared Stidham play, and if so, when?
Yes. 100% yes. He will start a game. Can book it. I don't care if Newton's having borderline, unless Newton's having an MVP season. If Newton's even struggling a little bit, Stidham will start a game. I think if you're looking at a timetable for when Stidham starts, anywhere from week 6 to week 10 be his first start.
Oh, imagine his
Is
first starts against the Ravens. Ooh.
oof. I think you'll see it around there. If I had to look at the schedule and give you the best guess, maybe a week 12 versus the Cardinals, week
Maybe week
9 at the
15.
Jets, 15. That'd be a little late, but that can make sense. I think you'll see Stidham start at least 3 games. I think that would be my best guess. I don't know. I mean, again, from what we have, Stidham, he's technically still in the race for the quarterback job. I know he's dealing with some injuries,
Yeah.
but it all depends on Newton. We're really, I hate to say it, but we're really riding or dying on Newton.
Oh,
It's all in
I
on
know
him.
I know that feeling. We'll
No,
talk about that soon.
but yeah, we're talking about the AFC West for our last little segment of the night. This is actually a pretty good division.
I think this
I don't
is.
think it's as good as it was a few years ago,
I
but
think
it's
the
pretty
best
good.
division is the AFC North, but I definitely say that for the AFC, I definitely say the AFC West is the most competitive,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Still think my favorite division to look out for is going to be the NFC South. We'll talk about them next week,
Yeah,
but I can't wait to see the NFC South play. That's going to be so fun. I'll start off Raiders. I had them finishing fourth at 6-10.
exact same.
Um, I'm a fan of Chucky. I think he's a good coach. I still think he's in the middle of a massive rebuild over there in Oakland, and you can't really fault him because he was given a pretty bad hand.
Mm,
They play the NFC South, like we were saying. No, play the NFC South. They play the AFC East, which might kind of give them an advantage. But yeah, 6-10. I think their only big key win, if I had to give them one, if there is one, maybe week 12 versus the Falcons on the road. I could see that happening. Maybe week 15 versus the Chargers. Maybe they could steal a game week 17 versus y'all, the Broncos. Uh,
I don't
Something
think
like that. But
I'll
I
see
don't think
that
the
at home.
Raiders are going to be serious contenders. I don't think the Raiders are going to be serious
No.
contenders this year.
My key loss for them is Week 10, actually, against the Broncos at Raider in Las Vegas. I think they lose that game. They just go on a losing streak. They could possibly lose to the Jets with how. If they lose to the Broncos, they play the Chiefs immediately after that, coming off a bye. Chiefs are coming off a bye immediately after that. Then they play the Falcons. I think they're demoralized. They could lose to the Jets. And then they got the Colts, Chargers. Maybe pick up a win against the Colts, Chargers, or Dolphins
Yeah.
to kind of rebound. But I actually disagree on Gruden. I do not like Gruden.
See, I know he's a little more. I mean, he's still. You can still see he's trying to adapt.
And I have my
And
reasons
in
for
this
it.
game, you can't expect someone to adapt that quick. But then again, he is an NFL head coach. But he's not going anywhere since he owns what, like
Oh yeah,
10% of the Raiders.
yeah.
So he's not going anywhere for a while.
And
I like his old school style. I think he's a fun guy for interviews, and I have a soft spot for Chucky.
so here's my reasoning for my dislike of Gruden. I've been reading this book called The Draft. And it's a story about I believe it was the 2005 NFL Draft when Gruden was the head coach of the Buccaneers, and I've just been reading that, and it talks about the Buccaneers, how they win the Super Bowl, they trade for Gruden and they win the Super Bowl against the Raiders, and going all through that like the past couple years up to 2000, I think 2005 draft, and you could just see they give you like a representation of the fallout of the Buccaneers and the power struggle between their general manager Rich McKay and John Gruden, and how their styles just differed so much. And I still see the same sort of tendencies in Gruden today. Like Rich McKay, um, don't spend a lot on free agents, especially older ones. He's like, we're building inside. We draft young players with high character and high talent. The philosophy of it's easier to make a good football player a great football player than a great athlete a great football player. And John Gruden is the exact opposite, and he loves spending money on veteran free agents. And that's a big reason why the Buccaneers fell to where they did. And I see the same stuff happening in Oakland.
I don't mean to interrupt, but you want to hear something crazy? Leonard Fournette officially went unclaimed on waivers.
Oh, did he?
Went unclaimed. I didn't know that. Pretty shocking. I think he'll still sign somewhere, but I thought he would have gotten picked up on waivers. Wow. Hmm. Interesting. Sorry to interrupt on that.
No, I was
Yeah,
done. I was
that's
done.
interesting. I hadn't read that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I was kind of going back and forth on who to put at third and second place. It's the same two teams, but I put the Chargers at 7-9.
I put the Chargers at 7-9 as well.
I think the issue with the Chargers is they don't have a quarterback, true quarterback. You know they drafted Justin Herbert.
Mm,
Herbert's going to be interesting. I don't think he's ready for the NFL. I think that's why Tyrod's probably going to start. And I look at the schedule. I just don't see any opportunities for them to really take over games without a quarterback.
yeah.
I think they're going to lose a bunch of early games. I mean, they, in the first 4 weeks, they play Cincinnati, Kansas City, Carolina, Tampa Bay, and the Saints. First 5 weeks. That's going to be pretty rough for whoever's at quarterback, whether it's Herbert, Taylor, Stick. I don't know why I thought about using Stick. Yeah. So that's going to be pretty rough.
Yeah.
For the Chargers. I don't see it happening. 7-9.
And going
May steal a win versus the Broncos, but
going back to something I talked about in a previous episode with Hard Knocks, how Anthony Lynn, the head coach of the Chargers, had to keep reminding Justin Herbert to go through his progressions in walkthroughs. That's very worrying. That's something
pretty bad.
I don't see much in Justin Herbert. I see him as probably my comparison for him is Mitchell Trubisky, honestly.
Ouch. It's a pretty good comparison though. So now we're gonna talk about your team. Actually, yeah, your team.
Yay.
Broncos.
Finally.
I had them going 9-7.
Oof. That's fine.
Here's the reason why. Here's the reason why. First of all, I still think they make the playoffs. 9-7.
Yeah, I have them as a 6
because I look at my roster. There's a lot of second place 8-8 finishes and 7-9 finishes, so they'll make the playoffs in my predictions. The only issue I have with the Chiefs is two things. Locke only had 3 games last year.
5.
Right.
5.
So he's still a little 5. Sorry, he's a little unknown still. That's the first thing, and the second thing is a lot of young pieces, and the team hasn't really melded yet. So I think on paper they're a really good team, really do. But I kind of thought that last year and the year before too, with the Broncos, similar things. So I think I'm pumping the brakes on my Broncos excitement. I do think though they still win Week 13 versus the Chiefs, and that's going to be the Chiefs' only loss at home. If I had to have one of my hot takes, I think the Broncos go in Week 13, beat the Chiefs, and that's their only home loss.
See, I had the same thing, but different week. I had them winning at home against the Chiefs in Week 7 as their key win.
Really?
Yeah. I think they split with the Chiefs. I think we could probably see maybe a 4-2 Broncos in division, maybe 5-1. Probably near the same for the Chiefs. Probably 5-1, maybe 4-2.
And I think a lot about the Broncos season is their season's kind of up to what other teams do. A lot of the teams they play have really high ceilings but really low floors. I mean, they play Tennessee, they play Tampa Bay, they play Falcons, they play the Saints, they play the Panthers. You know, they play New England. So all those teams have pretty high ceilings but pretty low floors. So a lot of the Broncos season is going to come down to chance.
Yeah,
I think
we'll be one of those teams where I think we'll be one of those teams where we win a lot of games within one score, and I think we're winning those games because of Vic Fangio and his defense. I think the offense will probably be ride or die by Drew Lock this year, 100%. It's ride or die by Drew Lock. Elway is fully committed to that, and it's pretty obvious with the draft that we've had, especially drafting his Mizzou partner in crime, Abu Okwuegbunam, in the 4th round.
I commend you for learning that name.
The red zone target that he is. We're ride or die by Locke. If Locke stinks, I expect a top 10 pick again. If Locke does decent to above average. I can see 9-7, 10-6 with a lot of the wins, a lot of our wins, especially against the better teams, coming in like one-score games where the defense is able to clutch out like a red zone stop or maybe a turnover.
Mhm. And I think the Denver's real year is going to be in 2021
I would
when I
agree
think
with
the
that.
team gets a season under their belt and it gets a system going. You get your rookies more playing time. You get Hamler involved in the offense more.
Yeah.
Set him up as a true wide receiver three. I really like the team on paper. Hopefully, like we said, they're having some injury scares with Bradley Chubb, and hopefully that's nothing severe.
They said
You also get your
they said they were being
cover back or
they
back.
said they pulled him from practice just to be conservative. But the fact that he had an ice pack on his knee is kind of like there's some sort of even no matter how
Swelling or
minor there is like a
inflammation.
little bit of a itch or a re-aggravation a little bit.
Yeah.
So I I I I think it's PR that they're saying they're pulling him because they just want to be conservative with it. I think there probably was something that was bugging Chubb and they pulled him as a to be conservative. They're pulling him because he had some sort of issue, but I don't think it's anything major as of right now, and he should be ready to go by week 1, hopefully.
Okay. Now for the final team. While shocking, we both have the Chiefs winning the AFC West. Shocker. Um, but I kind of have a little hot take with the Chiefs, and this kind of parlays into next week's predictions. But I'm gonna kind of break it. I have them going 13-3.
I have him
First
12
off,
and 4, number
um,
2 seed.
I actually have a key loss for them, a key win. I think a key loss for them is Week 12 versus Tampa Bay. I think up until Week 12 they're undefeated. I think they beat all the teams on their schedule, even the tough Week 3 game against the Ravens. I think they survived the Broncos at home on the road. But I think Week 12, when they're 10-0, is when they lose. I have them losing to Tampa Bay. I think the GOAT ruins their perfect season, and I think that kind of creates a tumbleweed. I have them also losing to the Broncos, like I said, a week after, kind of a carryover effect. And then I think they lose one more time to the Saints, and I think that's their 3 losses.
I have their key win actually as
Uh,
week 13 against the Broncos. I think they win that game and they win out the rest of the schedule, go 5-0 in the last 5 games. I think they lose to the Chiefs. They lose to the Broncos, Bucks, and maybe Saints.
yeah, I think that's
Maybe
what's going to be.
Falcons. Falcons is
I think
also
Tampa Bay is going to have the upper hand in that matchup. Um,
especially
I hope that's
especially
a
against the
Super Bowl
Chiefs
preview,
secondary. Yes, I would agree with that. With the weapons that Tampa Bay
yeah.
has, they'll just
Especially with
overwhelm.
giving Brady 10 games to face that defense is really going to help him.
And improving
Well, those
the
are the
offensive line. They'll I think it'll negate the pass rush. Not a lot because they still have Chris Jones, who's a extremely good pass rusher, but it'll negate a lot, especially from the edge with Tristan Wirfs and what's his name? Who's their left tackle? I forgot.
Isn't Wills going to play left tackle?
No, Wills is right tackle, ain't he?
I don't remember. I think he might have been right tackle.
Who's their
Who
other
is their
tackle?
left tackle? That is a very good question that I cannot. I know who he is, but I can't think of it right now. You're gonna bother me with that, aren't you?
I'm looking it up right now. Go ahead and keep talking.
Okay, so those were our those are the AFC predictions. We'll do NFC next week. Now all we have left is our little weekly sessions that we always been doing. We're pretty
Donovan
good about
Smith.
them. Oh yeah, Donovan Smith. Duh. Stupid.
I think we are a bit, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So who's your college standout?
All right, my college player of the week. I didn't have a lot of time to do this. I've been pretty busy this week, with a lot of different stuff for different reasons. I just went with a UGA guy, just someone I'm already familiar with, so it was easier on me. Eric Stokes, the corner, 6'1", 185, redshirt junior. Pros, good size and length, good instincts and route recognition and press. He also gives different looks to quarterbacks constantly. Like he'll play press, he'll play off. He'll play press, but then bails off the press and doesn't actually press. He knows how to gain leverage and he knows where his help is on the field, so he's a smart player. He's exceptional in the red zone because of his size. He's good against and his press ability. He's good against slants and fades, and he has the agility to be able to mirror and man consistently. Cons, he isn't a big playmaker. He gets limited targets due to him having a lot of press looks because quarterbacks usually, if they see a press look, their first read is going to be the off coverage. So he doesn't get a lot of targets because of that. And he leaves himself exposed too often when he's bailing from a press to him breaking routes. So if they have someone has like a timing route, a simple slant, or maybe just a regular post, if he's bailing off his press, he'll most likely he has a habit of getting beat by that. I project him as like a second round pick.
Interesting. So I actually kind of cheated because that's what I do. I actually have two players this week since fantasy drafts are this week and next week. I have two. First of all, was because of today, Chris Thompson. I think he's always been a kind of a sneaky fantasy guy when he was in Washington. Kind of a guy you'd throw in the flex, and he'd actually surprise you with 10, 12, 15-point games. Have him taking a bulk of the snaps this season just because I don't trust Raquel Armstead quite yet. And the rookie they drafted, I don't really remember his name. I'm not that impressed by him either. I think Chris Thompson actually does take a huge step forward fantasy wise. He might actually become a low end running back too. And if you're playing PPR, man, start him. There's no reason to not start him unless they've proven that they're just going to handcuff him with Raquel Armstead every week. And the next one I have is actually I made this one like an hour. It was an edit. Brian Edwards, out of the receiver from Oakland. I don't know if you saw, but Tyrell Williams, receiver for Oakland, got put on injured reserve a couple hours ago. He's out for the season. I do think Brian Edwards takes a step forward. And as much as I like Henry Ruggs, I really like Hunter Renfrow. I think they're missing a wide receiver too. And I think that young receiving core is going to make a little bit of noise. I don't think the team's going to be as very good, but I think that offense is going to be fun to watch, especially with Josh Jacobs in the running back. I have Edwards getting around 650 yards. Low tier flex option, but he's draftable now with Tyrell Williams being gone. Those are my two guys to watch out for. I think Chris Thompson is probably my favorite fantasy gem this week. Especially with Minshew. Especially with Minshew now, because Minshew is pretty smart when it comes to dumping down football. I think especially now with how bad Jacksonville's going to be. I know that's so terrible to say. I think Thompson's value rises with how bad the team he's on.
Yeah.
He's going to get so many dump down passes, so many little screens. Even though he's like 29-30. Oh, can't wait to see Chris Thompson this week. So that's it for this week. That was actually pretty timely.
Yeah, we did pretty well time-wise. Only an hour or two, hour three.
I thought that was going to take longer. I was kind of worried. We definitely made the right call not doing all the predictions in one episode. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys listen this far, and then next week we record these normally on Tuesdays or Mondays. Then season starts next Thursday.
Yep.
So
9 days.
Finally
exactly.
getting this season. Hopefully nothing happens drastically in the 9 days. Knock on wood.
I don't have any here.
Hopefully everything works out, and hopefully we actually get some football back, and because we need some. I can't wait this podcast when football is going on, because we're gonna have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I think.
I can't wait to actually talk about. Can't wait to talk about football when it's actually going on. But if you guys stayed this far and listened, we appreciate it.
As always.
Can't wait to do the next episode. We're only 2 episodes away from football, guys. So we'll see y'all next week on the Belichick's Bitches podcast.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give something in here a little bit. If y'all have any sort of ideas or something you want us to talk about, that's NFL, throw it at us. We'll take a look and see if we want to talk about it.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Cut off my intro. I'm hurt now. I don't even want to do it again.
All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to Belichick's Bitches. We'll see y'all next time.